Hello, welcome to episode 224 of the Epic Film Challenge 2, 1001 movies you must see before you die, rounding off the 3 Abbas Kiarostami reviews, the 3 films from the Iranian film director included in the book 1001 movies you must see before you die, 1997's Taste of Cherry. And this has evolved into this kind of impromptu Kiarostami fest. I wanted to watch Close Up, and then ended up watching another film and another, including his debut film, or his debut feature film, The Traveller. But this film, Taste of Cherry, he's, 2 decades deep into his career as a filmmaker, and it feels like a fairly mature film. It deals with a middle-aged man who is driving around, basically, for the entire film. And it's an interesting one, Taste of Cherry, because I feel like if you've seen Abbas Kiarostami films before and you liked them, you got something out of them, you should probably just check this film out and not know anything about it. Go in the same way I did, completely blind, not knowing anything about the plot. Because the first half an hour, you're going to be wondering what the hell is the plot. You're going to be wondering where this film is going, if it's going anywhere. But rest assured, it does go somewhere. But about half an hour into the film, you do get the hook of what the story of the film is about, which is no real spoiler. But I just wanted to throw that out there. If, in case you're watching this video, you haven't seen the film, you're intrigued to check it out, go watch it. Give it a shot. It's worth a look. So, it's about this middle-aged man who is driving around the dusty hilltops just outside the city of Tehran and picking up passengers and asking them if they'll do a job for him for a lot of money. Now, just to kind of sidetrack a little bit, I read that Roger Ebert, and I like kind of reading what he had to say on movies, because I really respected his reviews and his kind of down-to-earth opinions on them. And he hated this film. He thought it was excruciatingly boring, and he felt that this first 30 minutes of the film kind of painted out the character to be a homosexual, because he's picking up these men, and he's saying, will you come and do something for me and I'll pay you a lot of money. Now, I understand where he's coming from. The same thing crossed my mind. I was like, is this going to go in a crude direction? But I thought, seeing what I've seen from Kiarostami so far, I feel like it's going to be a little bit more intellectual than that. It's not just going to be some kind of sex movie. There's going to be something a little bit more deeper than sexual favors going on inside that car, which turned out to be correct. Ebert's kind of complaint is that the character should have known that it was coming across that way. And I'll get into the character and him later on in my review, I think. But anyway, I just wanted to throw that in there because I found that quite interesting. So the first half an hour, it's just conversations in his car. And we're inside the car, looking at the main character from the side or from the, through the windshield straight on as he's driving around. And there's lots of long takes. Half an hour in, we find out why he's doing this and what he wants these people to do for him. Of course, a few of them just get rattled and decide they're not going to do anything, because it just seems too weird. But eventually he gets far enough to tell someone exactly what he wants them to do for him for a lot of money. He is going to attempt to kill himself. He's dug a hole on this hilltop and he's going to go in there, take some sleeping pills, and the next morning at 6 AM he wants someone to go there and check if he died. Call his name. If he pulls his hand out, help him out of the hole. If he doesn't, bury his body with 20 spades full of dirt. He basically wants to have the assurance that his body is going to be properly buried, basically, after killing himself. And he has a lot of money he's willing to offer to someone to do that. And the film goes through the various viewpoints of the passengers he picks up along the way. And he does this by saying, hey, do you need a lift somewhere? They'll come into the car and he'll start kind of feeling out who they are, what they want, how he could appeal to them in terms of money. What job do you have, what kind of living situation do you have? Maybe, this money could really help you. So he really tries to get to know the people a little bit before he starts telling them that he has a job for them. And there's loads of different reactions. There's a guy who just runs away. There's a guy who gets angry with him, like, what are you talking about? And that's understandable too. And then you get the people who are willing to sit there and listen to his, well, not his reasoning for killing himself, but to listen to what he has to say about the subject. And because one of the people he picks up is a religious man, and they kind of get into a little bit of a debate over the morals of killing yourself. And the priest says, it's all well and good that you want to do this, but to me it's a sin to kill yourself, and killing yourself is still killing, and so I can't condone it. I can't be a part of that. And then there's an old man who is probably the most substantial passenger that he picks up. And the old man seems willing to do this, but he also seems willing to appeal to our main character's senses, I guess. And that's where the title of the film comes. There's this very long passage where this old man is trying to convince the main character that perhaps his decision is a little rash. And what I love about that sequence, which is easily the best in the film in my opinion, is that throughout the film, with these conversations in the car driving around the hilltops, we mostly are in close-up on the main character driving and his passengers in the passenger seat. Rarely will we go outside that for extended periods, but there are these scenes where we'll go way back and we'll look at the car from afar and we'll see it winding around these kind of twisting roads along the hilltop and so on. And that happens a few times in the film, but none more than when this old man gives this big monologue about living life and how much you're losing out on life if you decide to take your own life. And when he delivers this monologue, our main character says nothing. It's like he's been shut up, and we just hear the old man and we just see the car. Yet the audio of what he's saying is completely present, as if we're sitting right next to him, but we're watching the car slowly wind down these roads, and it really makes you reflect on what he's saying. And he's talking about how, do you ever want to, do you want to never see a sunset again? Do you never want to, taste, fresh spring water again? Do you like the idea of not being able to experience the taste of cherry anymore? That kind of thing. He talks about how, life is full of wonder. Life is full of so much, and you're throwing it away. And I loved his line where he said, there are people, how did he put it? Because I love the way he put it and I want to get it right. But the essence of what he was saying is that there are people who have died who would love to be alive right now, and you want to be dead. And there's something very wrong with that. But the way he says it is really simple, and I thought that that really added to the impact of what he was saying. It was roughly something to the effect of, there are people over there who want to come here, and you want to go over there. Just by saying here and there, in terms to the afterlife and in terms to the life of the living, was just, it really oddly resonant in the way he said it in such a simplistic way. I don't know, I loved that whole scene and that character as well. And so yeah, we follow this basically this afternoon and evening of the character driving around, picking up people, having conversations and so on, and him trying to kind of get under the skin of people to kind of, there's a couple of people who he says, hey, do you want to come for a ride with me in my car? And he kind of gets it across in a fairly uncreepy way, because it sounds creepy when I just say it like that. And I loved the mood of the film where the colour really played into the kind of, I don't know, the middle-aged sensibility of this character who's contemplating the end of his life, because these hilltops are just bathed in this orange kind of glow. There's a lot of work going on, a lot of this, again, kind of orangey brown dust going up and all that kind of stuff. There's just something very interesting about the colour palette of the film. It really suited the tone of the story. Now, to talk about the character, we don't know anything about him. We get a hint that he served in the military. It's possible that, yeah, he, had seen some shit. Maybe he'd been to war, and that was why he couldn't take life anymore, and he would like to be free of the life of consciousness. But I think that's painting the character and the film in a box that it shouldn't be put into. I feel like this film is a film that's wide open to the viewer to imprint onto it and take from it what they have gathered in their own life experiences, I think. And it was all about suicide. It's about that theme of taking your own life, that idea of taking your own life, and what you feel about that. This film confronts you with that head on. I think a lot of people have a lot of different feelings on suicide, and there's no one way to think about it. There is, there's lots of different areas of that. There's, people who are very old and sick, and they don't want to wither away. They want to take their own life. The great Terry Pratchett did a documentary about that kind of stuff, and euthanasia and the laws about being able to do that, if you need to for medical reasons. And Terry Pratchett's great quote was, I've had a really good life. And I'm paraphrasing here, but he said, I had a really good life. I don't see why I shouldn't have a good death. That idea of being able to choose your fate. Then there are people who are young and they do it for stupid reasons, and that's terrible. Then there are people who think that suicide is a big sin, and it kind of, you destroy your soul in doing that. There's religious implications for people who believe in that sort of thing. But this main character, we don't know why he's doing this. We don't know whether it was a family that he had and he lost. We don't know if he's ill, if he's sick. That's entirely a possibility. But the feeling you do get is that this is a guy in his middle-age years who has just decided he's had enough. And so it's a character who doesn't have much character. That, I think, for a lot of people is going to be a big no-no, a big turn-off. The fact that the majority of the film, like 4-5% of it is him driving around talking to people is a big no-no for some people. It's a different kind of film, but it's a film that I love the concept of. I love films that just have dialogue. You know, it's not really driven by too much plot. There's not, you know, scene 1, 2, 3, 4, different locations, different characters, intersecting kind of, you know, secondary storylines, all that kind of stuff. It's just this one character or this, you know, couple of characters and dialogue and just humans interacting with each other in meaningful ways. Although you can argue how meaningful some of the conversations are with the passengers because they have different opinions on what he's doing. And I was kind of a little bit moved by the old man who decided that he would do it, but even though he didn't agree with it. And at the end of the car ride, he says, look, I'm your friend now. I'm your friend whether you decide to do it, whether you decide not to do it, I'm still going to be your friend, you know. And I like that a lot. It's that kind of an instant trust and an instant connection with someone. Not that I felt that they had this great bond or anything, but it was this sense of humanity, you know. And I've said before, I feel like Kiarostami's films have a lot of humanism in them. And this one is no different with the old man who agrees to help our main character and to bury his body if need be. And there's a great scene, probably my second favourite, when he drops off the old man where he works at a museum, and then suddenly he drives back. And he goes inside the museum, I need to see the old man. And suddenly he's spirited to find the man again. And you're thinking, oh, has he changed his mind? He's not going to kill himself. And he finally gets to the old man. He's like, I just got to say something. He's like, what? I might be asleep, you know, so make sure I'm dead before you bury me. You know, he's like, throw 2 rocks at my head. And the old man's like, I'll throw 3, you know. And he's like, so you'll definitely do it then. And the old man says, even if they take my head, I'll do it, all right? So yeah, there's something quite touching about that someone was so willing to help out someone else in you could call it a time of need, you know, and you can debate again. You can debate how right this man was in taking his own life, and it all goes down to your own opinion on suicide, how you feel about that. But I think the film is more about the idea of it than judging this character and us thinking should he be doing this. It's not really about us deciding whether he has the right to do it. And Kiarostami takes away his backstory. He takes away his character. You know, we're mostly just looking at this guy driving around and just silently looking out of his windscreen. You know, there's a scene at the end where he sits and looks at the sunset, and his face is very stone-faced. You know, and it was a very restrained performance, but I think it's a great one because it allows us to kind of, again, imprint our own feelings onto it. So I was very captivated by the film, even though it's a film where not much is going on at all. It's more about bringing up the ideas and the themes. Or theme. It's really just one theme. It's mortality and how we can take it into our own hands and deal with it how we wish, if we choose to, and whether or not that's the right thing. But I think it's more about raising the idea of it, more than, again, judging this one character and he should stick around for, you know, his kid. Well, we don't know. Does he have kids? We don't know. Kiarostami takes away that aspect. You know, we don't know about it. So anyway, is it a film to see before you die? I don't know. It's interesting. I feel like a lot of people are going to hate this, or will hate this, or have hated this, you know, because of how it's almost abstract and how slow-paced and, you know, just dialogue heavy it is. Well, not even dialogue heavy. That's the thing. There's these passages where there is no dialogue, but then there is. I don't know. It's not dialogue heavy. It's not dialogue free, but it's just it's not that driving kind of dialogue where we're getting to another point. It's just, or it's repetition as well, because we're having the same conversation over and over again. Although it is written so that it's said in slightly different ways, so it's not completely repetitious. So there is some, you know, great care, I think, was taken to the script in terms of the way that this main character kept explaining his plan to people, but in slightly different ways. So it's a little bit more interesting for us to read in terms of people who don't speak Persian. So I think it's a film you should see before you die because it could affect you. I think that it's a film that can, it's life-affirming but also condemning at the same time. One of those films that has just very twisted moral flavour to it. You know, you're not quite sure how you feel about it. And at the very end, Kiarostami does something very bold, I think. And it's not even to do with the main character. It's this kind of completely separate end to the film. You could almost cut it off, basically, and you'd still have a perfectly fine end to the film, but he adds something at the very end, which, you know, I'm not sure how I feel about it, but I'm still thinking about it. So that's something. And if you've seen the film, you know what I'm talking about. And I won't really go into it that much because I don't have much of an opinion on it. It just greatly surprised me and just made me think about the film even more for some strange reason. So yeah, it's one that sticks with you, but certainly not my favourite Kiarostami film. I think that probably resides with Through the Olive Trees. I love that film so much, and Close Up again, the more I think about Close Up, the more I love it. So Kiarostami's been a great discovery for me, but yeah, I think that Taste of Cherry is one worth watching. Probably one that I think people who really think about death and life a lot will get something out of, more than people who are more carefree, who live by the moment more. I think they will be a little bit more disinterested in this kind of film. But overall, I would give it my seal of approval, and it's probably a film you should check out before you die. So there we go. Leave your thoughts on the film down below if you have any. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.